Today we're going to be going over this study, which is kind of looking at cannabis and its impact on cardiovascular events. The reason why this study is important to look at is because many of the other studies only really look at how it impacts stroke, but this one specifically looks at myocardial infarction, like heart attacks, and other cardiovascular diseases. So they started with 110 studies that they had, and then they narrowed it down to about 24 by excluding certain ones. They ended up removing ones that had things like they were looking at animals instead, or they looked at a different age population than what they were looking for, or they were even using the wrong drugs that time. Here's what they found. They found that heart attack had an actual 29% higher odds if you were using cannabis. They found that stroke was 20% higher. Cardiovascular death was more than doubled. But surprisingly, when they looked at both heart attack and stroke risks, they saw that there wasn't any statistical significant difference to those who did not use it. And here's where things started to get tricky. The I-squared value, which is essentially telling you how did the results change from study to study, was pretty high. Now, the results range from about 79 to about 89% on the I-square, which doesn't mean that the results are inherently wrong. It just means that they need to be looked at a little bit more carefully, and it needs more further research to better understand the link between the two. If it had a score of, let's say, 1%, it would mean that every single study essentially got the same result, which is what we ideally want to see. This doesn't mean that they all got different results. It just means that the range for which they got these results is pretty big. Here are some issues with the study. One, it was only done from 2016 to 2023, meaning that a lot of the results before then could have been taken out of context. Secondly, we don't really know what it means by how much cannabis was used or how often it was used. It was more so just a yes or no question on most of these studies. Lastly, these are self-reported, many of them, meaning that these are often biased, and because people don't always remember, oh, hey, did I use this last week, or when was the last time, or how much, because your memory tends to fade over time. You don't always remember everything. So we kind of know that self-reporting isn't always the most accurate. So what can we take away from this study? We know that there is a positive relationship between cannabis use and these types of events. What that means is that there is something that is likely to happen. It doesn't mean it's very strong or it's always going to happen, but that it is tending in that direction. The reason why it's important, because this is so specifically tuned towards cannabis and other issues like heart attack, ones that we haven't had studied before, it means that this is something that definitely needs more research and we need to be more concerned about before recommending this for just about anyone. This was a deep dive on the topic that we covered today from the medical journal. If you want more deep dives into that, let me know that you enjoyed this and we can go through more of the big studies that are published. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. There won't be anything on the Substack for this today, but if you want to see more information, you can follow for more. See you then.